Hey there, friends. Welcome back to the Unstuck podcast. Thank you, of course, as always, for joining me today. It is a Friday episode, which means I'm going to teach you something. Although really, to be honest, this is just an episode where I'm basically going to be your BFF for the next 30, 40 minutes and give you some tough love. I think for some people, they may find this to be tough love. But I mean, obviously, I think really all the episodes are me giving advice, being your BFF, maybe giving you some tough love. But this one in particular, I'm just going to have a conversation with you. It's like we're at coffee and you asked me something or you told me something about what you're not doing. And this is my advice to you. We are going to talk about what you are not doing, why, and basically I'm going to get you motivated to start doing something. Take action. That is my goal for this episode. And hey, you may have noticed that this is the only episode this week. Like I mentioned back when I started doing 2 episodes a week and started coming out with a Tuesday edition, that wouldn't be all the time. It was going to be kind of based on my workload, what I have going on, what I feel. And this week I hosted quite a few of you last night, if you're listening to this when it airs, on a live coaching call. And since I'm pre-recording this, I don't know how it went, but I'm assuming it was great and we all had a good time and we all shared openly and honestly, which is the goal and the point. So we had some really good connection. But with that came, of course, some work on my end. So I spent the week doing that instead of recording a Tuesday episode. And also, I mean, you don't need 3 of me in your week, do you? I think 2 is good. I think 2 is plenty. So if you came to that live coaching, you had that first dose of me, and now here's your second dose for the week, the very next day. But don't worry, we'll be back with some listener questions next week and in future weeks to come, and also some awesome guests coming on the show for our Tuesday edition of the Unstuck podcast. So be on the lookout for that. All right, before we get into my advice, BFF style, for you today, let me just let you know, this might be a reminder, this might be the first time you're hearing this, but the Unstuck Project, my 8-week online course for all of you that want to get unstuck and want to actually, truly, really do the work, make the commitment, and build a habit, build a lifestyle around this work, because that's truly, truly, truly what it is. We cannot not do that and have this all flow the way we want it to and have our lives come together the way we want it to and have what we want come to us or show up or work out in our lives without it being a constant, steady, habitual thing, which is why I created this 8-week course that will then provide you with 16 different tools that you can use in your life and create a toolbox, if you will, for your ongoing mindset practice. So if you want to get unstuck, like legit get unstuck, then you're going to want to pause this episode, go to the show notes, or just type in seanminer.com/unstuck and get in on the February class of the Unstuck Project and make the next 8 weeks like the best 8 weeks you'll ever have. But then let that flow into your life beyond those 8 weeks. And really, this is just the turning point. This is the start of a new you, a higher vibe you, a more defined you. Like, this is the start right here, right now, today. So make sure, if you want to be a part of this, seanminer.com/unstuck, and get yourself enrolled and get started, get going on it. And of course, keep me updated on how it's all going. And just an FYI, if you sign up by tonight, Friday, February 14th, Valentine's Day, 2020, if you sign up by the end of tonight, so 11:59 Mountain Standard Time this Friday, if you're listening to this when it airs, you will also be included in a private group, very small group coaching call with me at the end of the month to go along with the work that you are doing in Unstuck. So you can ask me anything and you will get coached and you will understand exactly what the next move is, how to navigate it, and where to go next. All right, so that is that. Now, I just want to let you know, like I mentioned, this is going to be more of a conversational style show. To be honest, I tried to make my notes of what I wanted to say organized, but they just aren't. They just are not organized. I could not find a way to make them more organized. So instead, I'm just going to talk. I'm just going to make sure that I hit the points that I want to hit, and we'll just hope that it all makes sense to you by the end of all of this. Of course, we're organized enough around here to have a quote or two to kick us off for this episode. Actually, I chose two. First of all, I think we've all heard this one. Nothing changes if nothing changes. We know that. We so totally know that. I think a lot of us forget that, and we very much get caught up in the everyday monotony of life, which is what I call autopilot mode. But we get really stuck in that, and then nothing changes because nothing has changed. So that's the first one. Second one, this is so interesting. I actually this morning did not know what I wanted to talk about today. Yes, today is my record podcast episode today, but I couldn't decide which one. And really, this is a huge problem that I have right now because I have so many things that I want to talk about with you right now. So it's this conundrum that I have. But I was looking through Instagram and found this quote from Mel Robbins, who, if you don't know, she's an amazing kind of mindset coach type person. And she posted, "You can't complain about being stuck if you're standing still." And so this Stop Waiting, Start Doing episode was something I was considering talking about as like one of my top 3 choices that I could talk about today. But when I saw that, and she actually used the word stuck, I took it as a sign that this is what I need to talk about. This is what you need to hear today. So again, you can't complain about being stuck if you're standing still. Now, of course, this is meant metaphorically, but we can even kind of think about this literally. Like, think about it. If you're not moving, if you are standing still, you're kind of stuck, right? You're stuck in that position. And so, of course, we want to think about this more in terms of our lives. Like, being stuck is this feeling that we get, but the only reason that we feel that way is because we're standing still, metaphorically, meaning we're not making progress physically, mentally, and emotionally. We're not expanding as the humans and as the souls and as the spirits that we are. That's when we're stuck. And that's why we have this podcast, right? To get us out of that. And it all comes back to our mindset, to our thoughts and our emotions and our beliefs, and unsticking all of those, which is what we're going to talk about today. The reason I really wanted to talk about this Stop Waiting, Start Doing so quickly, this was one that was like really gnawing at me to get out there, is because I think it's kind of confusing to understand what action to take or when or why or how when we talk about efforting and trying and striving so much around here, which is what we're used to doing when it comes to taking action. We're used to taking action out of effort, out of like kind of going against the current. And now we know, based on the work we've done here, that efforting isn't the answer. That's not the way that we want to go, because efforting is coming from a place of lack and fear, which means we now know it's coming from this place of your ego. Your ego is the one wanting you to effort as your form of action because it's keeping you safe and it's working towards your limiting beliefs or your stories, which is basically the sole goal of the ego, is to continue making what's lodged in your subconscious mind true. Just, it's true, it's true, it's true. This is how things are. This is how you are. This is how life is. And I'm just going to keep showing you that. And that's where the efforting comes from. And it really is also, when you're efforting, it's putting all of your energy into keeping something from happening, not getting something to happen. It's keeping something from happening. So for instance, of course I have examples. You're on a diet to try to lose weight. You're doing that. So being on a diet is efforting. And that efforting is coming out of a fear of gaining weight, or of not being your ideal weight, or of not losing weight effortlessly, or of food making you fat, or, like there's so many different stories there, right? It's based out of fear, and you want to keep something from happening. Another example, you're efforting your way through a broken relationship. It's not right for you, but you're scared of being alone, or being single forever, or feeling sad or upset or lonely. That is keeping something from happening. You have a fear of how you could feel, or that you won't ever find another partner. So you're efforting your way through a broken relationship. Let's do one more example just so we can really drive this home. You are trying to start a business, which I know there are a lot of you out there doing this, or maybe you already have one. So you put all your energy into creating the perfect website, having the perfect logo, designing the perfect business cards, but you never pass the business cards out. You never direct anyone to your website. You never talk about what you do to strangers or to your following or to anybody, and you never sell anything. That is not a business. Businesses are based on selling things. You are doing that because you have a fear of putting yourself out there. It's safer to not put yourself out there. You don't feel like you have the education. You don't feel like you have the right experience. So you are basically doing the things that make you feel like you're doing something, but are completely part of this efforting situation, because they come from a place of lack, of basically what you don't have, and fear of what might happen when you do put yourself out there, what might happen when you do sell your services or your products. This is your ego. This is efforting. And this is what we now know, hopefully, through the work you're doing here on Unstuck and what we're talking about and have talked about in past episodes. You now know that's what you don't want to do. That's not the right way to get inspired action, to put your energy towards the next step. We also talk a lot here about waiting and being open for signs and feelings and signals from the universe before we take inspired action, rather than putting our energy towards the wrong thing, which is that efforting piece, right? So we've talked a lot about part of the process of the law of attraction, of connecting with the universe, and part of your communication that you have with your higher power, this universal force, does come with a period perhaps of waiting. Sometimes you have to wait for the next right move, the next inspired action, the right time, the right place, the right person for what is your path to come to you, right? But that doesn't mean, and I know it seems like it might mean, we're not supposed to do anything. That we're just supposed to sit and wait and wait and wait for that like perfect partner to show up at our doorstep, or the perfect job to come calling, or our first 10 clients to email us and want to pay $1,000 for our services. It doesn't work that way, of course. We know that. But I think when we are doing this work, and especially if it's something where you're just starting out with this kind of manifestation type process and really working with that universal energy, then you might feel like that. It might be halting you. It might be paralyzing you. And and you're telling yourself that you're not supposed to effort things. You're not supposed to try harder. But then you also aren't really getting any signs from the universe or any feelings that things are right. Or maybe you are, but you're second guessing if they are the right signs. And if you're really supposed to take action on what you're feeling or what you're getting or what's coming up in meditation or you're visualizing, we start kind of second guessing it, because especially if this is the first time this kind of thing has ever come through you, you're like, is this it? Or would I be efforting? Or what am I doing here? Or I don't want to make the wrong choice. Of course, we are humans. We have this mind that likes to take over. Even when, our intuition has set something up for us, we still have a tendency to get the mind involved and start second guessing it. But of course, what all this is doing is enabling you to stay stuck, to stay indecisive, to not go after what you want, to not make progress, to not make moves, to stay on autopilot, to stay in the bad job or the bad relationship or poor or whatever. We're stuck. We stay stuck. And even more so, what happens that we aren't even realizing when we don't take action, when we just are waiting in the waiting phase, is we let that feed our belief that we're not smart enough, we're not good enough, we're not worthy enough, pretty enough, thin enough, educated enough, rich enough, like all the enoughs. We're not enough. So we, by this inaction and by the second guessing and by the efforting, if you are someone that's still efforting, you are just feeding your beliefs. You're feeding those stories because you're still either taking action or inaction based on those. Like, for instance, if you don't think you're pretty enough or thin enough to be in a different relationship with someone that actually treats you well, you'll stay stuck in this bad relationship, this broken relationship, because you're scared. Like what we went over. And the same thing goes for if you're in business and you don't think you're educated enough or smart enough or have enough experience, you'll stay stuck. And that will keep you in a state of inaction, which just means the cycle is constantly feeding itself. So we think we want to do this work on ourselves of getting out of these limiting beliefs, redesigning them, reconfiguring them, understanding them, all of the stuff that we do. But on the same token, by us not taking action, we're not doing that. We're only feeding it further. And then we continue to lack confidence. We continue to lack trust in ourselves. And that means you have a 0% chance of ever getting unstuck. If you don't have those two absolutely essential ingredients to getting unstuck and living the life you want and having your dreams and your goals, if you don't have confidence or trust in yourself, which will be the case if you continue to wait instead of do, you're stuck. Now, I know it seems like very negative. Let me give you the light at the end of the tunnel. Once you know what you want, which I think a lot of us have gotten that far, what's been holding you back, which are those limiting beliefs and those false stories, which some of you may know, some of you may not know yet. You've built awareness. That is the key, right? We all know that. You built awareness around all of this, the very first step to all of this. Then you spend the rest of your time, all your energy, getting and staying in alignment for what you want and taking action that action becomes inevitable. You can't not take inspired action if you have built the awareness and you are consistently working on your alignment, like to the point where it would feel weird not to take action. Like you would feel totally off if you had this sense from your intuition or this guidance, you felt the universal force be like, do this, and you didn't take action, it would feel so awkward. So really what I'm trying to say here is that if you're still finding yourself stalling or waiting, not taking action towards your dreams or your goals, finding excuses, which we're going to go over, that's really what this all is you are finding excuses to not take action. If this is you, all it really means is that you have more work to do. You have more work to do. You have more awareness to build. You have to get through those stories. You have to find them. You have to get to them. You have to understand them, and you have to turn them around. And then you also spend more time getting into alignment. Remember, feeling how you want to feel, feeling how you would feel if you were already there with that thing that you want. Doing all the things to feel as good as you possibly can, as often as you possibly can. If this is you, if you find that you are waiting and not doing, that's all this means is you have more work on your awareness and alignment, because we know the next step is action. And like I said, action is easy when you have really done the first two pillars, awareness and alignment. Now, this also is true if you keep finding yourself not doing this mindset work, not doing the work we do here on Unstuck. If you're listening to this podcast pretty regularly, if you're even, reading some books on mindset and law of attraction and the universe and these kinds of things, but you're not actually doing any of it, like you don't have a journal, you haven't meditated, you don't have a gratitude practice or an appreciation practice, you're not thinking about what you want and visualizing it, these things that we talk about here and all over the place in the mindset world, if you're not doing any of it, then again, you are only fueling your stories and beliefs. Once again, you're stalling on this process, and it could be that you have an excuse. There's a very good chance of that. But I do just want you to know that, yes, even you not taking action on this kind of work is fueling those stories. And we'll know that because we can kind of determine it, which we're going to get into based on the excuse that you have. That's fueling that story. And let me just use this as the perfect opportunity to remind you all that this work, this change in you, this shift, the unstuckness doesn't happen by osmosis. It doesn't happen by listening and reading someone else's journey and story and what worked for them and thinking it's going to work for you. It only happens by doing, and it only happens by consistent, long-term, and by long-term I mean always, forever, every day, all day practice. Now, you're already like, oh my God, can't do it. My life is way too busy, way too hectic. I do not have the time. This is super overwhelming. First of all, hey there, beliefs. Hey there, excuses. We already know that. We can see that. Like, oh, if I just said that, that means that I have this belief that I don't have time, that mindset work takes time, that life is a struggle, right? So there we go. We can kind of dig into that. But what I really want you to understand is that, yes, we all have a busy life. We all have a lot going on. It's not going to get in the way. This work, honestly, to be totally, completely honest with you, it creates more time in my life. When I spend 30 minutes, which is my practice, I spend 30 minutes every morning on my mindset practice, through meditation, journaling, listening to things that really get me into alignment. When I do that, I get so much more done throughout the day. My work gets done in like half the time, and I have more time. Like my mind is right, and it creates a much more functional place for me to get through the day. So, no, you don't have time, but you can make time by doing this. So that's the first thing that I want to say. The second thing is that it doesn't have to take 30 minutes. If you don't have 30 minutes a day, it could be 1 minute. It could be 5 minutes. It could be 10 minutes, whatever you have. And each day can be different. But also, when you make it a habit, it kind of happens on the fly, especially the alignment portion. I mean, I am always in alignment. I'm always thinking about what's the best feeling that I could have in this moment. How can I kind of work through the thoughts that I'm thinking to really understand them and then change them to something that feels a little better. This stuff happens like right now. I'm sitting at my desk, at the gym, when I'm on a walk. It happens while life happens. And that's the beauty of it. And that's what makes life really special and amazing and awesome and makes you just see the world in a whole new light is when you're doing this work on the fly. Total tangent. I told you this was going to happen. When I just can't quite organize my thoughts, things just come out. But I do want to make that very clear. All right. The last thing, kind of getting back to when you might be in a place where you haven't done enough awareness and you don't have enough alignment for the action step to come next. This would also be true if you're not having success at manifesting things. If what you want seems like it's getting further away, like you're having no signs, you're not getting any closer, you're not feeling any different, you've gotten back into the ho-hum of life, like you've forgotten what you even wanted to manifest, if it just feels kind of like that, then basically you can just use that as a sign of kind of to determine what action you are or are not taking. Are you taking inspired action or efforting action? Or are you being inactive, not taking action out of fear, out of beliefs that still exist, or out of second guessing, or out of thinking you're supposed to keep waiting for the universe to drop things in your lap? Again, if you're not manifesting things, time to take a look at the action or inaction you're taking and understand more about that. Because manifesting does not mean sitting around waiting for that thing to just fall from the sky. But what I will say about manifestation, the very cool thing is that when you do start taking those signs to mean something and taking inspired action based on your intuition, that like inner guidance system we all have, or just, that gentle knowing, that nudge that all of a sudden it's like, I think I should do this. That is when you start the ball rolling. And I really will tell you, crazy things will start not falling into your lap, but they will start making themselves very much known towards what you want. It is a thing that grows and expands as you start taking inspired action. But of course, you have to go through this work. You can't expect to manifest things if you don't have awareness and if you haven't started your path to full-on alignment as much as you can, as often as you can. So really, all of this, everything I just said, can be summed up here. Stop waiting and start doing something. Stop allowing excuses to dictate your actions or your inactions. They can be from both. And here is where I want to break in and talk about excuses, because I can almost guarantee that if you are either efforting or waiting or taking uninspired action, whatever you're doing, it's coming from an excuse, because remember, excuses are tied to our beliefs. How do you know? Quite easy. You have a but. Like somewhere in there, somewhere in that thought process, there is a but, B-U-T, by the way, B-U-T, but. For instance, I want to put my profile up on the dating site, but I want to break up with my partner, but I want to apply for that really awesome job, but I want to stop dieting, but I want to start a business, but, right? These are excuses, first of all, but they also are tied to what we firmly believe as true, still in that subconscious mind, because we haven't untangled it yet. Or even, I know what I want to manifest, but, or I'm waiting for a sign from the universe, but, or my intuition told me to do this, but it can work that way too. Of course, excuses are very, very present. We all have them. It's just a matter of seeing them for what they are. And of course, guess what? Still taking action in the opposite direction. So now say that you are taking action. So you have been doing stuff. How do you know if it's aligned or efforting? Very, very different things. I think we can just, even when we think of those two words, very different. Aligned. It just feels good. It feels peaceful. It feels calm. And efforting feels like a struggle. It feels hard. It feels rough. We don't want that, right? We can feel the difference there. How do we know? First of all, ask yourself, what is fueling that action? So why are you doing it? And really what we want to get down to the bottom of, and it may take you asking yourself several times, but why? But why? But why? To really find out, is it out of fear or lack? Or is it about expansion and growth? That is how we can tell if it's aligned or efforting. Also, you can go by how you feel. So how does it feel when you do take that action? Does it feel hard or easy? Of course. Does it feel like you're forcing it or it's flowing? Again, going back to, the very first, maybe second or third episode, are we going upstream or downstream? You may remember, are you going with the current or against the current? That's how we know if we are stuck or not. And so ask yourself, how does it feel when you do take that action? So, of course, let me stick to some of these examples I have throughout the episode. Let's go to the broken relationship. I'm going to have one more conversation with my partner. I'm going to try to make things better, try to make this work. When you think that, and that's what you decide you're going to do, that's the action that you're going to take, are you dreading it? Or does it feel good? Does it feel like, yeah, we need to talk about this. This is going to be a really great conversation. Does it feel forced? Like, I have to talk about this again. Do you have a hard time even coming up with what to say? Like even just the conversation feels tough and challenging. And how is the partner responding? Are they into it? Are they not into it? If they're not into it, if it all just feels forced, then that is a sign of efforting. That's a sign of going against the current, forcing things. Now, in the business example, all right, let's just say that you decide you're going to go to this networking event that's, in your local area. You're going to go to a networking event and you're going to talk to a couple people who feel like they have a good energy. They seem warm and inviting and light. You're just going to find those people and spark a conversation. Now, how does this feel? Does it feel forced or like a flow thing? Does it feel hard or easy, upstream or downstream, closer to what you want or further away from what you want? And again, breaking in here, when you take aligned action, it is very often, very, very often, going to feel scary. But it's not the same kind of fear that comes from your ego that is keeping you stuck. It's more of a It's like yeah, this is right, but this is getting me out of my comfort zone. And that has a little bit of awkwardness or fear or just unease. But that is not the same thing. And I think we can all understand what it feels like to be going with the flow and going with the current, but feeling a little nervous about it because it's out of your comfort zone versus going upstream because you are scared of what will happen if you go downstream. Big difference there. So yes, this going to the network event might be scary. If you're an introvert, if you're not used to putting yourself out there, if you're not used to talking about your business yet or what you do, it might feel scary, but it also will feel really empowering, really exciting, really motivating, and positive, like an overall positive, high vibe thing. So that fear, that sense of unease comes with these really high vibe emotions. And that's when you know it's the right kind of scariness that you may be experiencing. All right. I hope you guys are all still following me, still with me here. Now I just have a tip for you. One tip for you. And I think you all know what this is going to be, is to take one small step every day. You've got to get the momentum going, and that means taking action towards what you want every single day. Now, a lot of you are probably like, cool, I don't know what that is. What am I supposed to do? I would happily do it if I knew what it was. If you don't know what that small step is yet, go back to working on your awareness and your alignment. Remember, like I just have brought up a few times here already, this means getting out your journal and seeing what comes up for you. If you still have some ego chatter in there, if you can connect with your intuition and write out what it says. If you have something that you want to manifest and you want to kind of visualize it through your writing, there's a ton of journal type things that you can do. I do have a blog post about journaling that I will link in the show notes if you want some steps to start journaling. But that's part of this process, and you'll be surprised when you start getting things out onto paper and letting yourself kind of just think and then writing down those thoughts. Stuff comes up, and you may even have a sense of your small step. Also, get out your emotional frequency scale if you don't have that yet as a PDF, something that you can have on your computer or print out and have next to your bed or on your desk or whatever. You should have it all over the place. If you don't have that, go to shawnminer.com/scale, and I will link to that in the show notes as well. But you got to get that out and kind of gauge where you're at right now. See what you can do to feel a little better, like what thought might feel a little differently to work your way up the scale. So see what you can do there, and then just do a bunch of things that feel really good to you. And for a little bit, this awareness and alignment piece can be your action step. Doing this mindset work is part of taking action. And when you do that, as this progresses, then you will start receiving these feelings or these signs or just this knowing of what your next step should be. And then, of course, it's a matter of actually taking it. And like I said before, if you are making the awareness and alignment piece a part of your everyday life, then you won't be able to not take inspired action. It will seem almost weird. It will feel weird to not go with what your intuition is telling you to do. So it becomes easier and easier. The reason I want you to commit to taking one small step every day, and like I said, it can be working on your awareness. It can be getting into alignment, just doing a bunch of fun things, writing out your gratitude, writing out even what your ego says, just anything that you can do. And it may be like actually posting your resume on a job board. It might be searching for a new job. It might be pushing publish on your first blog post or on your website, and maybe giving your business card out to 5 people every day. Like, yes, we can take actual direct actions towards our goal, our desire, what we want to manifest. But we can also, if we don't even know that that's the right thing yet, we don't have to go there. Just doing this mindset, this unstuck work is a step for you. If you don't know, then none of that feels really good to you yet. But why I want you taking small steps every day and committing to taking those actions every day is because it clues the universe in to what you are ready to receive, that you're ready to receive what you want, that you are ready to start taking inspired action and to take the signals for the next step. So we really, again, it's about gaining momentum. And guess what? What you'll find out when you start taking action every single day is that the ride, the fun, the best piece is enjoying the steps, is enjoying the action items, is enjoying each of these small steps you're taking every day. That is the journey that you're on. That is where you find the best alignment, the best feeling. You just enjoy it. You enjoy the process. And then when your manifestation comes, because it will, it's like, wow, I was already feeling super good before this. And now this is here and cool. This is great. But man, I was already really flying high before. So wow, this is a cherry on top. All right, that's going to wrap it up. What I want you to know, here I am. We're done with our coffees, our little chat, our little BFF chat. What I want you to know is to stop waiting. Stop being on idle, in neutral, on autopilot, whatever you want to call it. Stop doing that. Stop stalling. No more excuses. Get out there. Get going. Start working towards what you want without the effort, without the force, without the fear-based action, and have tons of fun while you're doing it. Find something that feels good. Yes, it's going to feel scary too. It feels good. It feels right, and enjoy the heck out of it. That is all a part of this process. But remember, it's up to you and your actions, these little baby steps you're taking every day to break the cycle, to prove your limiting beliefs, those false stories in your head wrong, to build trust and confidence in yourself, and continue to be aligned and inspired and creating amazing things for yourself every day. And I think you all know this is exactly what we do in the Unstuck Project. Open right now, February enrollment. We're doing it now. If this may be your sign. This might be a sign for you to take action, to get started, to start doing the work, to be the person you want to be, to have what you want to have, whatever it may be. You gotta start here and now. If this is your sign, I'll see you in class. Head to SeanMiner.com/unstuck. February class, we're starting now. Let's do it. All right, that's it for today's episode. Thank you everyone so much for joining me. Again, as always, we are building a community here. We are part of this movement. So if you know anybody that would benefit from what we chatted about today, send them this episode, send them the whole darn podcast. It would mean so much to me. It would mean so much to them. And of course, it's given you all the high vibes to spread the love. And of course, leave me a review over on iTunes. Let me know what you're loving about the show. I read every single one. They are the best thing ever. So thank you everyone who already has. If you haven't already, it takes 2 minutes. Head over to iTunes, leave a review, send me some good vibes. I would so appreciate it. All right, until next time, take care.